So today I'll be discussing the implementation of Totara at Headspace, but before I do, I want to spend a bit of time giving you an idea of what Headspace is and our services, who makes up our workforce, as it's important to understand that it flows into some of the challenges that we had and therefore the solutions that we implemented. I'll also talk a little bit about the strategies we use to ensure uptake, some of our results, which we haven't got a whole lot because we only launched February 6th this year. But I'll share those with you in a moment, and then we'll look at our roadmap for the next couple of months. So Headspace is the National Youth Mental Health Foundation, providing early intervention mental health services to young people aged 12 to 25. We also run a lot of community awareness and campaign events to reduce the stigma associated with mental health. Headspace delivers services through local centres, through Headspace, which is an online and telephone service, and school support, which is a program that works with local communities in the event of a suicide. Young people primarily access support via one of our 98 Headspace centres. Please don't count them. This is an old infographic. And these are located across metropolitan, regional and rural areas of Australia. And this allows young people to access one of many health workers, whether that's a GP, a psychologist, an AOD worker, vocation and education, social worker. Like really we're a one-stop shop for young people who are going through a tough time and want to get back on track. Okay, so Headspace we've got a very interesting structure, and earlier the guys were talking from Canterbury District Health. That quite resonated with me. It's a very interesting structure where not one organisation, we're actually a partnership of nearly 100 organisations that together define Headspace and then deliver the services on the ground. So Headspace centres are commissioned by what we call primary health networks and run locally by organisations across Australia. And the role of Headspace National Office, which is where I'm based, is to define the Headspace model of care and support centres to deliver on that. So that's where the education and training team kind of comes in. We need to support them to deliver on the model. Our team supports all clinical program areas. So as I said, centres, the Headspace, school support. We also work with Headspace national staff. However, given that centres make up the majority of our workforce, check out the infographic, they're a key area of focus for us. As I said, there's quite a lot of health workers in our centres, but also the admin and management staff who look after the operations, community awareness staff and volunteers at our Headspace centres. So I suppose what I'm trying to illustrate by sharing this with you is we have a very diverse workforce, profession-wise, their experience. So you can see up there's quite a lot of experience, 20 plus years working in mental health. Their location, they're very dispersed, their age, their working hours, and also their employer. As I said, we're an organisation of many organisations, so we're not necessarily their employer and have that sort of control over the systems they use, that sort of thing. So let's have a look at some of our challenges. Number one, our challenge was to support a dispersed workforce and also build their capability to deliver services in line with our evidence-based model. We also had the added complexity that 95% of our training is self-directed, and so engagement in learning is quite crucial. And our previous learning management system was very limited in its capacity to meet this challenge. And you'll see on the slide there sort of what I'm talking about. Poor usability from a learner perspective. By that I mean the user interface was very dated. It was very confusing to navigate. There was 6 to 10 clicks to get it to do anything. And also the administration. So my job as a site admin was it was hard. It was a platform designed for the education sector, and which is fine for them, but not so much for a not-for-profit with our interesting structure. So we had to put a lot of band-aids over things, and we couldn't turn lots of functions off. Poor device flexibility was another thing. I don't need to go into that. You can't use it on a phone or tablet. Poor catalogue search functionality. we didn't have a search function, and some of you were kind of laughing about that. I did too. I can now. You'd type into the box and no search items would appear, so we ended up removing it completely. No social interaction, so there was no visibility of what was going on across the network. And lastly, this one's even funnier than the search catalogue. There was a system delay between enrolment and access to a course. And it wasn't like a 30-second, 1-minute delay. Like, I'm not that impatient, but it was. Okay, think about the line at morning tea trying to get a cup of coffee. It was about 7 minutes, and that is how long it took for a course to appear on your course page. So naturally, that led to about a 70% drop-off between enrolment and completions. So we aim to meet this challenge, or a lot of challenges, by providing an online platform that supported delivery of training to the workforce and support interaction between workers. Long story short, I dropped a very big list of user requirements on our business analyst's desk, and I said, Patty, what can you do for me? What can you find us? And she did her research and selected Totara. I'm glad we can laugh about this. I was worried for a minute there. So design was one of our main objectives, and we decided to implement a very new, refreshed-looking interface that was clean and intuitive and quite familiar. So it's quite on par with our website and our other brand. But it was also important that we captured a new brand, and we called it Headspace Learning as opposed to Learning Space. And I suppose what we're trying to convey there was that we're not putting lipstick on an old system. We're actually launching something brand new with new bells and whistles. The system is responsive, so we're able to incorporate a responsive design theme, allowing users to access training from their chosen device. And lastly, a rotating banner. See if I can make this work. There we go. Yeah, you see that? Boom. That's a rotating banner, and it keeps the LMS looking really fresh and new, and we update this every couple of weeks to promote various things like new training opportunities, external training, and different features of Headspace Learning. The other objective was social. So we decided to implement Totara alongside Kineo's social wave extensions to encourage engagement between learners and through peer-to-peer collaboration. And these include social newsfeed, as you can see, which displays course comments, course ratings, and completions. And this is possibly my favourite feature in that it's always being updated. There's always something new to look at when you jump onto Headspace Learning. And like, if you think about your Facebook newsfeed, there's always something brand new at the top of the screen, and it makes you feel like you're part of something bigger, I suppose. And that's the feeling that we were trying to give to our learners as they're somewhat isolated in their centres dispersed across Australia. From the newsfeed, staff are able to follow, instant message their colleagues, and we've also enabled course recommendations, allowing peer-to-peer recommendations. The last thing we implemented in terms of social was a searchable database to allow staff to find each other across the network. And so at the point of registration, we're collecting data such as obviously their name and their email, their location, their primary role, their profession, their competencies in various interventions like CBT or motivational interviewing. And so we're collecting this content and making it publicly available in a database. So our subject matter experts are able to find each other and find those who are, I suppose, less competent, new grads, that sort of thing, and be able to connect and share ideas. As previously, this has, I suppose, been an opportunity when you're at a face-to-face event, perfect here when you're networking, you can say hi and connect. But that only happens once a year at Headspace. We put on an annual forum, but we don't necessarily have anything outside of that. So by implementing the database, we're able to support staff to be able to meet online, I suppose. A new efficient registration process. So the system's able to auto-determine learning paths based on roles, which generate recommended and required training. So as I said, we collect information such as their primary and secondary role when they first sign up for the system. For example, someone might select community awareness as their primary role, and so the system will generate training based on that, such as social media, how to manage an event, how to deliver youth participation, that sort of thing. Search catalogue. I know it seems kind of boring, but like from where we were coming from to where we are, this is very exciting. So we customised our catalogue to meet the needs of our learners in that they, as I said, a lot of the training's self-directed, so we need to make it really easy for them to be able to find what they're looking for. And on the right-hand side, you'll see all of these little checkboxes. So we've implemented quite an impressive filter system, and we've tagged all the courses to various components of our Headspace model, which allows staff to find what they're looking for. So what else have we implemented? There's a few other things. Reporting dashboards for centre managers, which allows them to have visibility of group progress, so they're what's happening at a centre level, but also monitoring individual progress. Reducing time in the administration of the system. I've bought back a lot of time just by by developing course templates. So we're able to, I'm going to take a breath. Where was I going with that point? Templates, yes. So we're able to cut back on time given that everything is set up the exact same way. And there's also that added benefit for the learners in that they know where everything is because every course looks the exact same. The resources are in the same spot, the discussion forums in the same spot. You're probably wondering, what's that blender icon mean? Such a cliche. So we can now support blended learning programs. Did some of you not get that?
Some of the slower ones did.
I'm sorry. So we obviously can support the online component, but through the use of the face-to-face activities, we can do our registration through a course and then support blended. I haven't got a good example yet, but we're looking to do it in the next probably 3 weeks. So invite me back next year and then I'll talk about that. The last one is single sign-on for virtual classrooms. So we run a quarterly webinar program. So we might have about 4 webinars every month. And previously, learners have had to register in a Smartsheet and then go over to Adobe Connect and log in there and do all of their training. And we don't keep any records of that. But now we're able to integrate Adobe Connect into Totara. So we're able to collect all our registrations in Headspace Learning, and then they can sign on within the system. So they only have to go to one place. So how did we ensure uptake? Now, these are, I suppose, a couple of our strategies. In the lead up to launching, we had a very comprehensive communications plan. And to be honest, ensuring take-up by the workforce was probably a challenge in itself. Given our low engagement with the previous system, there was a risk that they wouldn't have confidence in a version 2 of that. So we were quite intentional about the communications that we rolled out 3 months prior. And so newsletter articles, we sent out teaser videos, sort of like what's coming. We also sent out some posters so they couldn't avoid us if it's coming in the mail, and also some targeted communications to our stakeholders. Now, as I've said a couple of times, the majority of learning undertaken by the workforce is self-directed, and the majority is self-directed aside from orientation, which is mandatory for all new staff members that join the Headspace network. And so we've managed to leverage this opportunity to, I suppose, suck them in, the new staff members, and then put strategies in place to keep them coming back. And those strategies are the social elements that they're not getting anywhere else. They're a huge draw card, and especially given how geographically dispersed the workforce is, and there's few opportunities to collaborate outside of one centre. we're thrilled to be able to offer the social wave extensions and the news feed in all of its glory. So there is visibility of what's going on across the network, and staff are able to feel like they're part of something bigger. So these are some of our results, which I'm really excited to share with you. They're current as of yesterday. So since launching on February 6, we've had 574 active users. Woohoo! Oh, thank you. We've also had 401 course completions since launch, and to put that into perspective, if we're comparing the time period February-March 2016 on our old LMS, we had 48 completions, compared to February-March this year, we had 268 completions. So it's still early days. I'm sorry I don't have more data to share with you, but I will happily come back and share those new results with you when we're 12 months down the track. So where are we going? We hope to roll out some new bells and whistles over the next couple of months to meet two objectives, and those are driving evidence-based practice and facilitating connections. In terms of evidence-based practice, we plan to configure the record of learning to include course duration and learning objectives, and so that will support our health workers in providing records for CPD or continuing professional development. And in terms of facilitating connection, I was really excited to hear from, I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name, about badges earlier. So we're really excited to look at implementing badges. I'm not an expert at all in that area. In fact, I went to a 48-hour MOOC last week just to kind of figure out what these are used for and how we could do them. And so I'm really excited that we could potentially use them to enable our subject matter experts in the network to surface and self-identify as competent in a particular therapy or component of our Headspace model, and hopefully by making that information public, they can be found across the network and I suppose be a teacher in the network, share their knowledge, that sort of thing. I think that's all from me.